creating a better world for all of you. I've never seen anyone do such magic and weave the right people together and get them to do things, right? And do them through their own unique talents. He is a magical, amazing human being, and I know you're going to go higher and get so much out of his presence. He is a living muse. So I am so excited to welcome Dr. Marc Gafni. Let's give him a round of applause.
How are you? Good. Let's give yourselves a big round of applause. Yo. Awesome. So we're going to talk for a few minutes about what's a vision of the patterns that connect. We live in a world where for the first time in the history of planet Earth, everyone's able to talk to each other. And at the same time, we live in a moment in which there's no shared story of meaning. And there's a yearning to articulate a vision of the patterns that connect. Now drop in deeper with me. Every one of us here in the room lives in what Charles Taylor, one of the great philosophers of the century, called inescapable frameworks. We all live in a framework. We all have a vision of reality. We all have a worldview of the way we interpret and understand things. And you might think that what you put in your body is important, and it's wildly important. And relationship between genders, like, insanely important. But actually, underneath everything, what's your worldview? What's the way you organize reality, unconsciously or consciously? What's your framework? What's the prism through which you see everything? And to be an awake, alive, enlightened, aflame, in love human being is to wake up and make your framework conscious. What moves me? What drives me? What's the nature of reality in its most essential place? So what I want to try and do for the very few minutes we have is actually articulate with you a shared vision of meaning. A framework for living. A postmodern framework which actually gets us there, which is post-traditional, post-dogmatic, yet rooted in the deepest understanding of spirit, physics, biology, pre-modern, modern, and postmodern wisdom, which begins to articulate a vision of where we might be going. I'm going to go 7 steps. So here we go. I need a drum roll before each step. Do we have a drum roll in the room? One thing, you call that a drum roll? Give me a drum roll. Okay. Number 1, and number 1's hard. We live in a world of outrageous pain. Hard thing to say at 4 to 3 in the afternoon, right after a long day. Is he really going to talk to me about outrageous pain? But actually, to be alive and to shatter our narcissism, right? And in California, we got a lot of that going on. We're really involved. Right, and our particular, unique, singular, hypersensitive, completed men's group, narcissistic me. And we got a lot of names for it. And we give a lot of titles and tags. But actually, we live in a world of outrageous pain. Did you know that 17,000 children in the last 24 hours died of hunger or hunger-related diseases? And I almost feel like just stopping right there. Like, how can you say anything after a sentence like that? Right? We're so numb, comfortably numb. Pink Floyd back in the day. Right? We're so numb, yes. Right? We're so numb to the pain that we have the audacity, what we call in my native tradition, the chutzpah, right? To say anything after saying that 17,000 children, right, died in the last 24 hours. Let's just stop here. You know that, remember slave trade? Back, then, Lincoln, Emancipation Proclamation, 6th grade, history. Well, actually, there are 4 times more slaves in the world today than there were at any previous time in history. There are 17 million slaves right in the world today. Like, wow. Right? There are millions and millions and millions of people who go to sleep alone every night and who feel alienated and estranged and brutalized. Right? There are millions and millions of elderly, right, who lived shut in, right, with devastating impact in the last years of their life. Right? We live in a world of outrageous pain. And there's no spiritual teaching that has the right to deaden our sensitivity to the pain. No satsang, no claiming that pain is an illusion, right? No claiming in the New Age way that you created the pain and you manifested it through something that you did in this or that seminar. It's nonsense, right? The first thing you have to do is actually confront the pain and avoid all of the bypasses, whatever theology they attempt or spirituality they attempt, whether it's New Age or ancient, right, to bypass the pain. We live in a world of outrageous pain. That's the reality of the world in this second, as we sit right here, right now. The only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love. The only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love. So what's outrageous love? You know, there's ordinary love, and there's outrageous love. You know, when someone holds your hand with ordinary love, it's sweet, it's nice, it's lovely, it's a little comforting. But when someone holds your hand with outrageous love, oh my God, the world's perfect. It never could have been any different. Outrageous love is the initiating and animating eros of all that is. The great mystics in every tradition understood when they opened up the eye of the heart, what the Sufis called it, or the eye of the spirit, what you of Lincoln called it, and they glanced in and peered in and peeked in, having peek experiences into the interior face of reality itself. They actually understood that the universe feels, and the universe feels love. And that love actually isn't hard to find. Love's not difficult to achieve, right? Love is impossible to avoid because the universe feels, and the universe feels love. And outrageous love is the nature of reality itself. We've exiled love. We've made it small and paltry. We've contracted love into a human emotion, which means a particular kind of arousal and a particular hormonal explosion documented in neuroscience. That's love. We've reduced love. We've made love small. Love is the nature of reality itself. When quarks got together right after the Big Bang, and they decided, hey, we don't like being alone. And they were attracted to each other. They were allured to each other. And they came together. Right? And a single boundary formed around them. And voila, there was an atom. What moved that? What was the eros, the initiating, moving eros? Right? Love. No other name. Or what we call sometimes in physics the ceaseless creativity of the fifth force of the cosmos, a.k.a. Santa Fe Institute, mid-'80s, complexity theory, chaos theory. Right? When atoms, right, got together and said, hey, we don't like being alone. We want to make contact. We want to be moved towards each other. They came together and they formed a molecule. What moved them? This was way before Darwinian evolution. What moved them? Eros. Eros, the movement towards higher and higher levels of mutuality, recognition, union, and embrace, which is the core essential fabric and nature of reality itself. And when molecules got together and formed complex molecules, and then they awoke, right, as cells, and all the way up the evolutionary chain, right, the world is moved by outrageous love. Outrageous love is the nature of reality. And when I seek to make contact with you in this moment, that same force that moves the sun and the stars, right, love that moves the sun and the stars, Dante, right, Alfred North Whitehead, the entire movement of evolution is the gentle movement towards God by the gentle persuasion of love. Right? Love isn't a sentiment. Right? Love is the essential nature of reality itself. So we live in a world, my friends, of outrageous pain. The only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love. So what should you do? You should be an outrageous lover. What does an outrageous lover do? Well, first, an outrageous lover keeps every boundary that should be kept and breaks every boundary that should be broken. Well, but what does an outrageous lover do? An outrageous lover, my friends, commits outrageous acts of love. That's what an outrageous lover does. An outrageous lover commits outrageous acts of love. And outrageous is not unconditional. Outrageous is, it's startling. It's unexpected. It's not polite. It's not what people, right, think you should do. It's not the prescriptions of culture. It allows you and needs you to liberate yourself and liberate the eros in you and become an outrageous lover committing outrageous acts of love. Because there's only two questions that a person has to answer to be alive in this world and to live a life that matters. And those questions are, A, who are you? Who are you? And from that answer to the question of self, everything else flows. And 2, are you willing to play a larger game? Are you willing to play a larger game? Are you willing to participate in the evolution of love? So who are you? So here it is, coming at you, my friends. This is the best we have, the best take we have at this moment in time, emergent from the great traditions. Every one of them, in their deepest depth structures, emergent from what we call emergence theory, chaos theory, complexity theory, the leading edges of anthropology, the leading edges of transpersonal psychology. The best answer we have at this moment in history to the penultimate question that every person needs to ask to be alive, to live a life that matters. And the question is, who are you? You are. You are. I am. You are. You are an irreducibly unique expression of the love intelligence and love beauty that is the initiating and animating eros of all that is, that lives in you, as you, and through you, that never was, is, or will be again. That's who you are. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. That'll replace a lot of Prozac. It's a very big deal. Who are you? Let's run by it again. You are an irreducibly unique expression. You're irreducibly unique. And the Enlightenment teachers, my good friends, and I did it for many years, were wrong. Uniqueness is not a function of conditioning. Separateness is. Uniqueness is a function of essence. You're an irreducibly unique expression of the love intelligence and the love beauty that is itself the initiating and animating energy, eros of all that is, that lives in you, as you, and through you, that never was, is, or will be ever again other than through you. That's shocking. That's amazing. That's startling. My friends, that's outrageous. What it means is, if you get it in the deepest place in your being, you know what it means? It means that there are acts of love in the world that are yours and yours alone to commit. It means that there are outrageous acts of love because you're an irreducibly unique expression of the love intelligence and the love beauty. That is the initiating and animating eros of all that is, that lives in you, as you, and through you, that never was, is, or will be again. And if you do not commit those outrageous acts of love, that means, definitionally, the best understanding we have at this moment in history, there's a corner of the world that is unloved, that is untouched. Wow. Because you were asleep. Because you were busy. Because you were meditating. Because you were praying. Because you were taking care of your health. All beautiful things to do. But all completely ancillary to the essential nature of who you are. Who are you? You're an outrageous lover. That's who you are. You're an irreducibly unique expression of that love intelligence. And that love intelligence can speak in verb only through you. Ultimately, you're God's verb, and the God you don't believe in doesn't exist. Leave it at home. It's old, tired conversation. The God you don't believe in doesn't exist. Who is God? God is the ecstatic evolutionary impulse that pulses through reality, that lives as source in you, and that screams its love intelligence through your life. Wow. Wow. That's the question. That's the answer. Who are you? Now watch for a second. It's kind of shocking. Just our last couple of minutes. And just feel into it. Love evolves. The way love lives today is not the way love lived 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago, it was a world of elites. No one thought there was any possibility that actually human beings could pick who governed them. The democratization of governance 1,000 years ago was a heresy which would get you burnt at the stake or worse, depending on where you lived in the world. Today, ask any 7-year-old, any 8-year-old, any 9-year-old, any 10-year-old, ask them what's the best form of government available in the world today. They'll tell you democracy. Because what happened? Because consciousness evolved. And the evolution of consciousness, that's the biggest game in town. Right? That's what's happening. The evolution of consciousness is the evolution of complexity on the outside, but the interior of complexity is consciousness. In Sanskrit, we say Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat is being. The inside of being is Chit, consciousness. The inside of Chit is Ananda, love. So the evolution of consciousness, democratization of governance, everybody gets it today. Imagine the following possibility. Imagine the democratization of enlightenment. Imagine that. Imagine the democratization of great love. Imagine that. Imagine that we didn't send a Rumi postcard to people, or Hafiz, or some other Tagore, but we actually wrote outrageous words of love ourselves. We actually accessed in us that outrageous lover who's unlike any other, who's the purpose, telos, of our being. And we realized that we lived in a telerotic universe, a universe with telos and eros, and that telos and eros lives and breathes as me. That's the invitation. Now, that's not a New Age invitation, and it's not a religious invitation. It's not a spiritual invitation. It's actually an invitation to be sane. Because enlightenment, my friends, is simply sanity. Enlightenment is to know your true nature, to know your true identity. If I tell you, my name's Dr. Leslie, and I started the WOW Talks, and really, really nice to talk to you. So you're going to sort of maybe a little bit funny, but not very, the first 30 seconds. If I keep telling you that, another minute, another minute, another minute, you say, oh my God, he's insane. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know his identity. And what does enlightenment mean? Enlightenment means simple. Enlightenment is sanity. It took me 20 years to formulate it in 3 words. Enlightenment is sanity. Sanity means to know your true nature, to know your true identity, to know who you are. Who are you? That's the question. How you answer that question, that's the framework in which you live. Everything else, every other single question you ask is a footnote. And feel something uncomfortable rising in you. Get this guy off. Let's get this one guy off on time, okay? Like, oh my God, right? Really? Right? Like, for real? Right? Did he really just say that? Right? Who are you? Because who are you creates the ultimate radical joy coming at you, ready? Of obligation. But when you say the word obligation, the whole room kind of contracts for a second, right? Oh, did he say that? But it's not obligation that's imposed by culture, my friends. It's not obligation that's imposed by a religion, my friends. It's not obligation, and I love religions, and I practice in all of them, right? Within the lineages, and I grew up in Aramaic texts, and I love to study and to practice. Let's do a little Easter, and Passover's Monday night, praise, right? And we'll do a little kind of, Om Namah Shivaya, along the way, and we'll do some puja. But that's not the point. The point is obligation can't come from religion. Obligation in the original Hebrew is chovah. Chovah and chibah, love and obligation, same word in the original Hebrew. Obligation emerges from your actual experience of your own identity when you realize that you are irreducibly unique and unlike any other. So if I try and do the job that my friend John, who was here before, we're in the middle of writing a book together, if I try and do John's job in the world, I can't do it. Because I can't be John, because God's having a John experience. And if God's having a John experience and finds there's Mark, God says, damn, that's not good. Right? God's having a Leslie experience, unlike any other. Right? Leslie is God's verb, Goddess's verb, right? Her adjective, right? Her noun, her dangling modifier. Right? And if anyone else tries to do Leslie, that's a violation. But actually, Leslie has to do Leslie. Right? Goddess having a Leslie experience, right, has an irreducibly, let's put it together, an irreducibly unique perspective because she's located in a particular place in the time-space continuum. And that irreducibly unique perspective fosters what? Unique insight. And that unique insight creates Leslie's unique gifts. And those unique gifts create her unique ability to respond. That is to say, her unique responsibility to respond to a unique need in her unique circle of intimacy and influence. That's what a unique self means. That's what it means to be a unique self. That's the essential definition of who you are. You can't move without it. You are an irreducibly unique expression of the love intelligence and love beauty that is the initiating and animating eros of all that is, that lives in you, as you, and through you, which means you have a unique perspective, which creates your unique insight, which creates your unique gift, which allows you to address a unique need in your unique circle of intimacy and influence, because ultimately, what is God? God you don't believe in doesn't exist. What is God? God's not just the infinity of power. I don't even know what that means. And in a world of outrageous pain, I don't know how to talk about God as the infinity of power. I don't know how to articulate that religious language, right? But I can talk to you about a God who is the infinity of intimacy. Feel into that, my friends. Feel into the inside of the inside, the holy of holies, when you realize that the divine is the infinity of intimacy. And to be a unique self is to realize that you are God's unique intimacy. That there'll be an intimacy, a love lacking in the world if you live anything less than that full, awakened, ecstatic experience. And what moves you as spirit is not bliss. Bliss is lovely as an expression of being, but you're not just being, you're becoming. You're not just bliss, you are the ecstatic urgency. Feel that word, the ecstatic urgency of the evolutionary impulse, awake and alive in you, and you can align not with ego, but align with the evolutionary impulse, living uniquely in you, as you, and through you. So let me finish with a story, a short story about my son, who I'm just thinking about now, Eitan. He just got married. His wife Hadassah is about to have a baby. And I remembered, as I was waiting a little earlier, I remembered an old story that happened to Eitan and I, right, years ago. And I was on my way to give a talk in Scandinavia, about 26 years old. And when you're 26 years old, you're absolutely convinced that your next talk is, right, the most important thing happening in the world. You haven't quite shattered your hidden narcissism, right? You're completely convinced that, that this is where it needs to be. So as I'm walking out the door, right, in Jerusalem, my son Eitan says, Abba, Dad, he says, Kachat zeitcha. He says, take this with you. And he gives me a shoebox. It's kind of a big shoebox, an American shoebox, didn't really fit in Israel. And he says, tistakel, take a look. So I take it with me. I put it in the bottom of my bag of books. When I travel, I always travel with kind of lots of 2nd, 3rd century Aramaic texts, which kind of makes me feel better late at night in hotel rooms. And so I put it on the kind of bottom of the bag. It's 3 weeks, kind of intense, city to city. I get back to Jerusalem. I walk in to our apartment. It's about midnight. And Eitan and I totally love each other, but he's always very happy to see me the next morning. He's up. He's completely up, wide-eyed, awake. He kind of looks at me. I look at him. And my heart sank, right? Because the shoebox was still at the bottom of the bag, and I'd been so self-busy for 3 weeks that I hadn't really looked at the bag. And he looks at me, and he has a little tear kind of running down his eye, and I don't even have time to lie. And I say, Eitan, efshar od chance, like, could I have another chance? So I go back out to the Subaru, and I, get out the bag, and I take out the shoebox, and we're sitting there in the kitchen, and I open it, and there's a picture of his mom from the Palm Beach paper, a cross pen. There's little silver cross pens we used to write with, back in the day, which had disappeared. A rock, right, a seashell. I say, Eitan, mazat dvarim ha'elu? Eitan, what's this stuff? And he looked at me and said, Abba, he said, Dad, zeh dvarim sheli. Natati lecha v'lo kibalta. He said, Dad, that's my stuff. Right? I gave it to you, and you didn't receive it. And of course, we've done so much better since then. But each of us, my friends, has a box. And in that box is our stuff. It's not our doctorate. It's not our well-worked-out body, as gorgeous as it is. Right? It's our dreams, lived and unlived. It's our hopes. It's our fears. It's the poem only we can write. It's the song only we can sing. It's the way of living, laughing, loving in the world that's ours and ours alone, because we each are a unique self, a unique expression of that love intelligence. You know what it means to be lonely? My friends, what does it mean to be lonely? To be unable to share that box with another person. Right? To be unable to share my soul print, just like my fingerprint, my unique self, with another person. But what makes me even lonelier, and with this I finish, is not to live that unique self. You can be wildly successful. You can be competent. You can be professionally fulfilled in every way. But there's only one judgment in the world. And my friends, there is judgment. Every near-death experience literature, right? Judgment not in the fire and brimstone way. Judgment, did I live my highest self? Did I live my dream? And to live your dream, there's only one way to do it. And that's to live your story. It's to live your life. It's to know, and that's our last sentence, the answer to the great two questions. Who are you? Who are you? Are you willing to play a larger game? Are you willing to participate in the evolution of love? Who are you? You are, and you can speak it with me in your mind, your heart. You are an irreducibly unique expression of the love intelligence and love beauty that is the initiating and animating eros of all that is, that lives in you as you and through you, that never was, is, or will be again. And there are outrageous acts of love in the world, and no guru and no teacher can tell you who they are. You're your own guru, your radical autonomy. But you know, that's the measure of your life. Be an outrageous lover. Love the moment open. And let's change the world. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.